Hi there, and welcome to the Oxbridge Formula. My name is Charlotte, and I'm here today with Harry, who is a graduate of St Catharine's College, Cambridge. Harry, thank you so much for being here today.
No problem. My pleasure.
So, tell me a little bit about your pre-Cambridge experience. How did you choose it as a uni?
Good question. I think I actually didn't have much of an idea of where to go to uni sort of until I'd done my first year, sort of my ASs, when ASs existed. And I think I sort of got relatively good grades, and I thought, why not try for Cambridge? It's only one choice of, is it 5 or 4 that you get to pick? It's been a long time since I did that. And yeah, I didn't really take it too seriously until I found someone at my sixth form that I was studying at, that had been to St Catharine's, and they told me that it was amazing, and you get a really good experience, you get really good teaching, and I thought, what, maybe I'll look into it a bit more. So I went there for an open day, really liked it. I think that's sort of the best way to see if you'll settle into, like, if you're trying to choose a college, definitely go there for an open day. And all the students are really friendly. I sort of had all these stereotypes in my head. I think a lot of people do, of thinking, it might be a little bit pretentious. But I didn't find that at all. And I felt sort of very at home, and applied and somehow got in. And it was amazing.
Nice. So, yeah, what was your first impression of St Cat's on that open day?
It's quite funny actually, because you could kind of tell that they were sort of very down to earth, because there was just one guy sat outside handing out these little leaflets. They weren't trying to like make it super fancy or sort of, a little bit, they weren't trying to make it intimidating at all. So it was one of the admissions tutors just handing out leaflets at the front. And then you got to go in and you got shown around by the students, had a look at some like accommodation, and some of the facilities that are available. And that sort of made me think this is sort of the place for me, I think.
Yeah, nice. No, it sounds really chill, especially for like a Cambridge open day, which I know can be quite manic sometimes. What is that? What attracted you to the college? That sort of vibe?
Yeah, definitely. I wasn't looking for the sort of the grand, any of the grand colleges. And your experience can kind of change depending on which college you go to. And it's quite important to make sure you get on with the students. Definitely talk to some students that are at the college and see if you get along with them, because people will be looking for different things. So if you're looking for a very sort of intense, very study focused experience, then there are colleges like Trinity and St John's and things like that, where they're very sort of focused on the academic side. But I was sort of looking for a little bit more chill, a little bit more social, and so that's sort of why I felt like St Catharine's was right.
Nice. Yeah. Can you tell me a bit about the factors that went into your choice?
So I mean, first and foremost, do you sort of feel at home when you walk around? Does it feel right? But then there's also location. So St Catharine's particularly was very central, and that was really handy. It's on King's Parade, which is right next to King's College, and that makes it easy for going to lectures, going to shops, things like that. And you sort of it's nice being in sort of the busy area, because there's lots going on. But the nice thing about St Catharine's as well is that in second year you get to move out into sort of their student flats, and they're on Grange Road, and they're a little bit further out. But it's nice to have that breadth, sort of have a breath of fresh air, and get to sort of step back from all the manicness of the centre. And then the third year you get to come back into the main site. So that was another thing. Also the facilities. So I was sort of a keen badminton player before going to uni, and St Catharine's actually have their own badminton courts. They're not on site; they're actually off on like a sort of sports pitch. But there's tennis courts there, there's badminton courts, there's squash courts. So that was another thing. And also something that sort of slightly influenced me was I knew that St Catharine's was quite focused on natural sciences. They had very good supervisors there, like Dr. Wathers, and many others, and that sort of influenced me as well.
Yeah, nice. No, it's interesting that you mentioned that the tutors that were at college did influence your decision, even though you weren't looking for a super academic college.
Yeah, definitely. I think a lot of people can get attracted to a college solely for the academics that are there, but you have to keep in mind that you might only be tutored by them probably during your first year, maybe your second year, but often by the third year, you won't be tutored by the supervisors just at your college. It will be sort of a departmental thing, so you'll because often by third year everyone's specialized, and especially for Natsky, everyone's specialized into their single subject, and so they sort of divvy up the supervisors based on department rather than on college.
Nice, yeah. And would you say St Cat's is a good college for Natskis?
Yeah, definitely. There is this thing called the Tompkins Table, and some people like to get involved in that and look at all the stats of all the colleges and see how they do. I wouldn't pay too much focus on that, but definitely, from what I'd heard, that St Catharine's was good for natural sciences, and that's sort of swayed me a little bit.
Yeah. No, it's interesting you mentioned the Tompkins Table, because I think a lot of people, when they approach choosing the college, like, these tables are all you've got to go on, really.
Yeah, definitely. But it's not, try not to emphasize too much on stats and all the numbers. Try and get a feel, because you can go off numbers all you like, but if you don't feel that it's right for you, then it's not the best thing to go off of.
No, certainly. So say you've got someone who's looking at all these tables and identified like a couple colleges that they really like. Can you compare for me, like, what are the colleges that are most similar to St Catharine's?
From my experience, there's quite a few colleges that are sort of similar size, like Clare, and Selwyn is a little bit bigger on terms of grounds, but so Catharine's is actually sort of average for the number of students per college, but it's got smaller grounds. What else is there? There's Sydney Sussex is very similar. Trying to remember off the top of my head.
How about in terms of atmosphere and the vibe you get around college?
Yeah. So definitely like Clare, Sydney Sussex, Selwyn. Those sort of have a similar kind of down to earth vibe. That's off the top of my head. I might have to look them up again later.
No, sure. And did you ever consider any of those colleges when applying?
I did, yeah. I don't know why I just went for St Catharine's. I think it's because I had this student that was at my sixth form that had been there, and she really recommended it. But I definitely was at some points, considering one or the other. But for some reason, I just set on St Catharine's.
I mean, yeah, it's easier to stay with what you know sometimes, and if you knew Cat, around there. Yeah, no, fantastic. So I'm just gonna scale back to something you mentioned earlier about the accommodation at CAS. It sounds like you get the best of both worlds, and that you live in college and you live out. So you have graduated now. You've done both. Which did you prefer?
Ooh, they've both got their pros and cons. I think that the best thing is sort of alternate between them, really, because it's once you've had a year on main site, and main site is great because all your friends are 30 seconds away from you. They're just along the corridor, and you've got all the facilities on main site. But I think after a year, you're like, oh, it might be nice to have a bit more space. And you've over on Grange Road, you've got loads of fields near you, and you can go out for walks. But you also are very close to the Sidgwick site, which is quite handy for humanities students. So I don't think I could say one or the other. I sort of like a mix of both, really, and that's what St Catharine's gives you. So
yeah, no, wonderful. And what is the accommodation like?
So on main site, it's you'll find this sort of quite common with most colleges. It's a little bit older. A lot of it has been renovated, but it sort of maintains the sort of oldness of the history of the college. but that's not necessarily bad. It's, it's still very nice to live in. Whereas in second year, when we moved out, we were those flats are actually like fairly new, and they're it's what's great about them is that they're all together in one big block. So it's like living on main site, except your entire year is together. Yeah, so it's sort of relatively new, and you get sort of a mix of both, really.
Nice. No, that's awesome that you like maintain that community feel even when you're living out of college. You're all still together.
Yeah, definitely. And even in fourth year, so a lot of people graduate after their third year, a lot of humanities students particularly, but scientists tend to stay on for fourth year. And so I did that as well, and a few other mates, and we all lived right by the sports courts that I was talking about before. And they're sort of college-owned houses, and they're all together, which is really nice. So all the fourth years are basically in these stringer houses together. And I got to live in a house of 6 of my mates that were also doing master. So yeah, it's a nice sort of community feel there.
Absolutely. I mean, you must have stories from being in that house. What was the craziest thing you had happen there?
I don't think I can. We used to hang up hammocks in the garden, which was great because we had a nice little garden with some trees. So after exams, we'd set that all up and go and lie out in the garden. And there's the big pitch. There's a big cricket pitch that's owned by St Catharine's, and they often have, especially after exams, they set up these big sort of garden party events, and there's like sort of, bouncy castles and croquet. It's a little bit sort of tongue in cheek, but it was great fun. But yeah, it was nice to sort of be a bit more independent, sort of be in our own house together. Yeah, I'll have to sort of think back what the things happened, but yeah, not at the moment.
Fair enough. Nice. Could you like describe for me some of the rooms you lived in? What were they like?
So, trying to think. So in first year, I was sort of you get like a choice. So this will be different for different colleges, but you get to set a preference. So you either choose a small, medium or large room or an ensuite. That's the way it works at St Catharine's, at least when I applied. And a lot of people go ensuite, and in which case you sort of go into the main, there's like a main accommodation block that's it's just called E. It's not a very imaginative name, but those have most of the en-suites. I chose a medium room because I felt like I didn't really need the ensuite. And so that was over in Hobbs, which is another block. And it was a nice room, lovely room. And it had like all rooms have sinks in them. And there's sort of a shared gyp, which is a kitchen, and bathroom.
Cambridge slang for you, of course.
A bit of Cambridge slang, yeah. And yeah, it was nice sort of being all together. In second year, we had flats of 4 and 5, so that's the accommodation offsite. And you get to pick who you live with, and you sort of share 2 bathrooms between 4 of you and a kitchen. And then back in third year, it's pretty much the same, going back to main site. And then in fourth year, I think they're actually renovating the houses that I was living in before. They were a little bit old, and the only sort of downside is they didn't have a common space. So we often just go into one person's room. The rooms were big enough that you could just sort of all sit in there and set up a table. But that was sort of one of the annoying things that it didn't have. But a lot of people actually choose to go private and live, in a house somewhere that's not owned by college. So that's an option as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting you say that. You don't often hear of people going private as undergrads when college does offer you accommodation.
Yeah, it's just I know a few mates that did it, but it's just sort of what you want. If you can find a better deal, but otherwise it's very convenient going with college because you don't have to deal with a landlord or bills or anything. So yeah, it's nice to have that guaranteed for you, the accommodation for 4 years, but if you don't want it, you don't have to have it. So
yeah, there's a stability there certainly. And do you know roughly how like the prices of rooms compares either to going private or maybe to other colleges?
No, I never asked them how much it was. I think it was about the same, otherwise they wouldn't have done it. The main benefit with going to college is that you don't have to pay while you're not there. So the way that it works is that you can move out during the holidays, and you don't actually have to pay for your room because people actually will use your room because Cambridge is very sought after accommodation. There's lots of things that happen throughout the summer and throughout the holidays. So your room might get used by someone that's going to stay. But I actually, like, some people, get a little bit, oh, someone's in my room. But I found it fine. I didn't mind. And it was quite nice to sort of start afresh as well. Moving back in during the term, when the term starts, and you get to put everything out. You don't have things like hidden under the desk that's been there for months and months.
No, true. The rooms are cleaned regularly, at least if you're moving out every 8 weeks. That must be a bit of a pain, though, no?
It's a little bit of a pain, but it's quite a nice little cycle. I don't know. Once you get in a rhythm of it, it's quite nice, and it sort of wraps up the term. You're packing your things up, and you get quite good at it as well. Sort of pack all your things into nice little neat boxes, and you got trolleys as well that are in the college that you can just wheel your stuff out to. So if it is a problem, though, certainly for people that live overseas, there are trunk rooms, so big storage rooms where you can keep your things. And if you really want to stay during the holidays, you can. The college won't kick you out, but it will mean you have to pay rent during that time.
Okay, awesome. I mean, yeah, you must have packing down to like a fine art now after 4 years.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like Tetris. It just goes perfectly.
Slot it in, bam, done. Nice.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you do have kitchens as students, even living in college. That's nice. That's a perk. What are the kitchens like?
So it really varies on which college you go to. So I think it's at Downing. Maybe it's at Downing. They get like really nice kitchens with like ovens and really nice hobs and all this. So if cooking is a big thing for you, definitely look for the colleges that do offer good cooking facilities. So on main site, the cooking facilities weren't excellent. There's sort of like a hot plate that you can use. There's no ovens. I mean, you can cook. I managed to cook quite a lot on those little hot plates, but the college sort of expects most people to eat in the hall, which is like it's the sort of cafeteria of the college. And it's actually I really enjoyed. I mostly ate in the hall during first and third year. Simply because it's really social and you get to go there with your mates, and it's not actually very expensive. I think it works out to about £3 a meal or something, and it's a great time saver, and especially when you're during term, it's very intense. You have a lot of work to be doing because it's so short. It's only 8 weeks. It's nice to just be able to nip down to the cafeteria and pick up some food. And
Nice.
but second year. Yeah. And then in second year, we actually did have proper ovens and proper hobs and everything in St Chad's. Yeah, so that was good. And then same again in fourth year when we were in the college-owned houses, we had proper kitchens as well.
Nice. What was your best student meal creation, either in the tiny kitchens in college or in your flat?
I managed to bake a few cakes in second year. I often used to bake up like masses of curries or like loads and loads of like veg chili in second year, and then freeze it all just so that I could like keep eating it throughout the week. Yeah.
Meal
My
prepping for the modern student.
Exactly, but my flatmates would always get really annoyed that I was taking up all the freezer space. But yeah, I have to think. We made some custard buns once. I think we got a little bit ambitious. I think that was after exams when we were trying to think of things to do. But yeah.
Nice. How about cooking in the mini college kitchens? What was that like?
It was okay. You can get by making like some simple meals. It can get a little bit crowded because there's sort of like 2 hot plates for about maybe 5 or 6 people that share the kitchen. I mean, most people will eat in halls, so it's not usually a problem. But yeah, it was okay. You can get by. But if cooking is a big thing for you, then definitely look at the sort of better facilities in the different colleges.
No, certainly. And you mentioned you were quite a big one for eating in hall. What was the highlight of the hall menu for you?
So the best food that hall does is during the formals. So formals happen like twice a week. You don't have to go. Certain colleges you do actually. So for example, at Keys, you have to, I think every time you go for dinner, you have to be wearing a gown, and they do like, or like they bring the food out to you. Whereas in St Catharine's, it's like the normal hall is sort of, you go and sit down and you pick up your food from the kitchen, basically. but then they also do this formal hall, which is sort of much fancier. You get to dress up in your suit and your gown, and they do really, really nice food then. So I think, I don't know, I had some pretty interesting things, like some stuffed, what was it? Stuffed butternut squash with like
Ooh.
lentils and things, and it was very, very nice. So I'm actually a veggie, and sometimes like some colleges don't really, they give you like tiny portions for vegetarians, but thankfully at CATS they actually gave me quite big portions. But yeah, the hall food is also pretty good, like the standard hall food. But again, I think it's not something to be overly fussed about. If you're really keen on getting the best meals, then maybe cook for yourself, or go to, I think there might be certain colleges that sort of do better hall food, but I don't think I've looked into that. So yeah,
it's not so dire that you've like jumped ship to another college for hall then.
No, definitely not.
No, it's nice to hear that the like hall veggie food is up to standard, because I'm a veggie at Oxford, and yeah, it can be a little dismal sometimes, not gonna lie.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice. So, how do you think the food at Catharine's compares to other colleges?
I know that. So I particularly like the brunch. So there's a brunch every Sunday, and they do loads of really good food, and they have free tea and coffee. But then other people say other people are a fan of like Pembroke College, and they do like a really nice brunch there. And yeah, I don't know. I think I've only ever really eaten at other colleges during the formals, and so sort of that's like the best food that they serve. So it's of those, I don't know. It really varies each time I go. It's also dependent on what you like. I don't think it's, no college is systematically better at making meals than another. So yeah, I don't know. I couldn't say.
Not gonna lie, I have had someone from Pembroke claim that they are systematically better than every other
Really?
college at all meals.
Yeah,
Hey,
they like to say that.
So what's your regular brunch order? If that's the highlight of CATS, what's your brunch go-to?
Lots of hash browns, lots of beans, eggs, mushrooms, tomatoes, a few veggie sausages. But yeah, they also do a lot of meat as well, which I obviously don't go for, but there's the bacon and black pudding and all this stuff. But yeah, it was very cheap. It was only
veggie brunch than lots of hash browns and beans. Those are the go-to.
Yeah.
Nice. So imagine you've had your brunch, you've got a weekend in college. Where are you going to be?
So Sunday I actually run, back when I was at St Catharine's, I used to run Smoothie Society, me and my friend, and so we took it on from some people that graduated in the year above us, and they actually founded it. But basically they managed to convince college to give them a budget of, I think it was about £20 or £30 per week, and they go to Sainsbury's, pick up a load of fruit and veg and all sort of different smoothie things, and we'd come back to the JCR, which is sort of the undergraduate common room, and we used to just make smoothies for people, and they got to come in, if they're revising, they get to take a little break, come over to the JCR and have a sit down, have a little chat and have a smoothie. So that was sort of my Sunday, and then after that I'd probably head back and maybe do some meal prep for the week. Yeah, something like that.
Nice. Okay, that is so fun. That's awesome. What was your go-to smoothie recipe? What's the highlight?
So the problem is that the best smoothies were actually milkshakes. We used to do them in I know. So it's meant to be Smoothie Society, but during exam term, which is the Lent term, the final term, we actually used to make milkshakes because we know that people were a little bit stressed and they need a little bit of calming down. But I think the best smoothie one, I don't know.
Or milkshake, I'll take either.
Well, the best milkshake we used to do is like an Oreo milkshake, nice. and lots of ice cream, and yeah, lots of mint as well.
Oh, classy. Have you handed down the baton of Smoothie Society now you graduated?
yeah. So we handed it down. I think it's still running. Should be still running. Um, but yeah, it's just going to be keep passing on. Hopefully, it'll be there in 100 years. Who knows?
Nice. Oh well, that's okay. Something super unique about cats at the Smoothie Society. Are there
Yeah.
any other crazy societies people might not know about?
Um, Not at St Catharine's, I don't think, but there are at other colleges. So sort of the great thing about the collegiate system is that you can either join university-wide societies or college societies. So one of the university-wide societies, I think, is, or it might even be Queen's, but it's Goat Cheese Appreciation Society. I remember reading that when I was applying and looking through all like the different societies, and I saw this and I was like, why has someone decided that this should be a society? But then I was like, why not? And you'll see that sort of common theme in the societies that people just have very niche interests, and they're like, yeah, let's make a society. And often colleges are quite wealthy, so they can sort of give budgets and stuff, and so you can often get a lot of support if you need it. So yeah, no matter how niche your hobby is, you'll probably find someone else doing it, and if not, you can set something up very easily.
How easy is it to get money out of St. Cat's if you either like need support or you just want that cheeky travel grant?
Yeah, pretty easily, I think. St Catharine's is one of the more generous colleges. So it's funny, you can have colleges that are quite rich, but they're a little bit stingy, and they might be a bit more sort of rigorous with, checking exactly what you're doing, making sure it's, if you're requesting for a travel grant, making sure it's, very strictly academic. But at St Catharine's, it was a little bit more lenient, and they were sort of happy to give away funds to the students. So, for example, in my case, I actually picked up ice hockey in my second year. I don't know why. My friend was just like I was quite into ice skating, and my friend thought, oh, there's a fresher session on for ice hockey. Do you want to go? And I said, yeah, sure. There's actually no ice rink in Cambridge, so we had to go to Peterborough, which is the closest ice rink. So it was like a 2 hour coach there, hour coach back. But it was great fun, and I just got hooked. So I played. But obviously there's a lot of kit that you need, and the membership fees are quite expensive as well. So I asked college, I said, this is quite expensive. I won't be able to play if I didn't have, the funds. And they were like, that's fine. We'll give you a bursary. And so this is like a standard thing that they do. They have a sports fund, which goes out to students that are playing sport. And I got my membership fees paid for, and a bit of my kit as well. So so that meant I could actually play, and I'm still playing now in Edinburgh. So
Fantastic. Yeah. And was that with college or with the uni, or just as part
that was
of
with the uni?
Nice.
Yeah, it was with the uni, because unfortunately you can't really have a college ice hockey team because there's not enough people.
It's a bit niche.
It's very niche. So across the whole uni there was about there's sort of 2 teams of about 20 people each. But I think it's grown a lot more because there's now an ice rink. Yeah, well, there's now an ice rink in Cambridge as of as soon as I left, which was last year, right when I left. I know, but it's I think it's grown a lot more now because obviously they don't have to go to Peterborough, so there's a lot more reason to go now.
Yeah, fantastic, and good on college as well, refunding you all this stuff. That's great. How is St Cat's in terms of sport? Is it got a reputation for that?
It's very good for hockey, regular hockey, not ice hockey. So we have it's one of the few colleges with an AstroTurf, our own AstroTurf. So the students can go out and train on that whenever they want, really. So I think there's quite a few Blues. The Blues are people that play for uni and usually win a game against Oxford, and you become a Cambridge Blue. So there's quite a few Blues in hockey at St Catharine's. Otherwise, I think we're quite good for football. I was never really into football though, so I didn't really follow along. But generally quite sporty. On the whole, there's lots of people playing lots of different sports.
Nice. Did you ever get your blue for ice hockey?
I technically didn't, because I only picked it up in second year, so I wasn't good enough for the men's first team, which were mostly Canadian and Americans that were played. They could skate before they could walk, and they played their whole life. So I actually played with a sort of mixed development team, and I think we hadn't actually established Blues qualification kind of thing. You sort of, it's a sort of a formal process. You have to say that basically the Blues committee have to, say that your team is definitely worthy of getting a blue. I don't think we had established that yet. I think they are actually doing it this year though, so we'll have to go back and get mine.
Formal process that can't be denied.
Exactly. Yeah.
Nice. So we mentioned that Cats is, quite a sporty college. Love that AstroTurf. Great stuff. What other sort of reputations does Cats have around Cambridge?
It's known as the friendliest college, but I feel like a lot of colleges say that. I got told that when I went to my open day, and I definitely thought it was true. And having been there for 3 years, I could definitely think it's the friendliest college. Like, there's no one at St Catharine's that I didn't like, that I wasn't friends with. Whereas there were definitely people at other colleges that I weren't too sure about. But it's actually the only college with a cheese course as well at the formal. So normally the formal is, I think, 4 courses. It's like starter, main, dessert, and then like coffee. So Catharine's also has an extra cheese course at the end. So if you're fond of cheese, definitely go to St Catharine's. But I don't think there's other sort of well-known things that Cats get sort of classed into. Mostly just friendly and down to earth.
Friendly, down to earth, and cheese. I mean, to be fair, that's great. You can't beat that.
You can't beat that.
How about something that you would only know about St Catharine's if you went there?
Ooh. They have a free coffee machine in the MCR, which is the master common room. And so I think me and my friend, we used to study in, we called it the dungeon. It was basically just an underground computer room, but it had no windows. It doesn't sound very nice, but it was actually quite nice to work down there, because it would just be me and my mate, and we used to work. And we just sort of knuckled down. This was during exam term, so this wasn't the rest of the year. We used to come up from there, go to the MCR, grab a free coffee, and then sit out on the main court benches in the sunshine. But that's, I'm sure there's lots of other things. Sorry?
You'd actually venture out of the dungeon sometimes? Stop.
Yeah, occasionally, yeah.
Nice. And are there like many chances to sit out in college? Does St Cat's have nice gardens, quads?
Yeah, so obviously you can't sit on the grass. This is like pretty common across most colleges. So you can't sit on the main court, although there's another court, Sherlock Court, which is like another green space. And we were actually allowed to sit there, I think it was during exam term, or it was most of the, I can't remember exactly when it was, but we were allowed to sit on the grass. So we would often sit on there, which is pretty rare. Like most colleges, every bit of grass you can't walk on unless you're a fellow. So we were quite lucky to have that. And yeah, so there's benches around the college you can sit down on. And then it's quite nice to go on King's Parade, and that's outside the college, but you can still sit down there. But otherwise, St Catharine's sort of is a bit small in terms of grounds. So if you're looking for a college with, loads of space, something like King's might be better, or John's or something like that. But I quite like having everything together. It's sort of very compact, and all your mates are very close to you, and it doesn't feel too overwhelming. So
yeah, you're never going to lose anyone in St Cat's.
No, exactly. And whenever you walk anywhere around Cats, you're always bumping into people, which is really nice. You stop and have a little chat.
Yeah. Oh, amazing. And say you are wandering around college looking for someone to chat to, where are you going to find people hanging out?
Probably main court. A lot of people sit around main court.
Not on the grass, of course.
Not on the grass. Where else? So there's a few other spaces that get used at different things at different times of the year. For example, the McGrath Centre, which is like sort of it's almost like a lecture theatre, but the seats can go away, and so it's a big open space. So we used to use that to study in during exam term, but otherwise it can be used as like space for students to relax in if it's free, or other things. Sometimes there's movie nights there, but otherwise there's you usually go to someone's room if you want to chill out there, or the JCR, which is the common room.
Nice. Who had the best room for chilling in while you were living in college? What was it like?
I have to think. There was a few people that had sets, so they were two-person rooms basically. I think this is quite common across the colleges. I'm not too sure. I've not heard of anyone else that's had this, but I definitely think it must be in another college because people do share living spaces sometimes. So it was a room that was just off of main court, and it was one big living space for both of them, two of my mates, and their bedrooms as well that were there. But because they both shared this huge sort of living area, it meant that it was really nice big open space to relax in, and yeah, do a bit of studying as well.
Oh my God, you studied? Huge.
Yeah.
On occasion, nice. And you mentioned like in college events as well, like movie nights. What sort of things are going on in CAT?
Yeah, so movie nights, and then what else would be going on? There's often like yoga. So often they bring in like a yoga instructor, and you can do like yoga with them. That's they usually do that during exam time when everyone wants to meditate and sort of relax their stress away. Trying to think what else they had on. I think I might have to wait and let it come back to me. There's definitely a lot going on, and there's often a lot going on at other colleges too. And if you have a friend at that college, they can let you in. And so John's did a really good it was like a sort of picture house thing where it was like a little cinema they had, and you can go and watch movies there, which is really nice.
Nice. Of course, John had a little cinema in college.
Yeah,
it's the most John thing I've heard. Nice. Do you think it helps that St Cat's is quite centrally located? You have like closer links with other colleges because of that?
Yeah, definitely. There are like a few other colleges that are quite further out, and from my experience, I've heard that it can be a little bit isolating. Like it's fine if you're happy to socialize just with the people in your college, but if you want to meet up with other people, it can be a little bit of a trek. So, for example, Girton and Homerton. But yeah, in St Catharine's, it was very easy. Just like there was Corpus Christi right next door, and it was nice because you start to meet people in different colleges through sports or through supervisions or through societies, things like that. And so it's nice to be able to just meet up with them very easily, just being central.
Yeah, absolutely. Does CATS have any like college alliances or rivalries to speak of?
Not really. There's so each college has a sister college at Oxford. So our sister college was Worcester College in Oxford. And am I saying that right?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect.
So we used to have a sports day event against them. So that was sort of like a rivalry.
Nice.
But I don't think CATS has a rivalry in Cambridge, but some colleges definitely do. But yeah, it's nothing that's very serious. It's just very lighthearted and a bit of a joke.
Yeah, no, definitely. Tell me more about Sports Day. Did you ever take part in that?
I didn't know because they didn't have an ice hockey event, which is sad. But they often have like lots of other things going on that day as well. So you can go and watch the sport, which I did a few times. And you can, in the evening, there'll be like a formal, and then like some people would go out in the evening and do things like that. But mostly I just watched, really, yeah.
Nice. So what is the nightlife in and around CATS like? Is it a college where people are going out a lot?
Yeah, definitely. There would always be people going out, mostly on the student nights, which was like Monday night, Wednesday night, I think maybe Thursday night. But there would always be like at least a handful of people that would go out on one of those nights, and so you could always find people to go out with if you wanted to. Another thing that I didn't mention, so there are these things called BOPs, which are like college parties basically, and there's usually a few of them a term. And they're really good fun because sometimes they're themed. You get to dress up, and you get to use all the college space. So there's like the college bar you get to use, and the McGrath Centre that I was talking about. So yeah, there's always people up for a good time if that's what you're looking for.
Nice. And BOPs are usually fancy dress, right?
Yeah. So I have to think. Well, there was like an 80s one that we did. it's really good fun to sort of to dress up and have a bit of fun.
Definitely. What was like the best Bop costume you've seen someone rock?
I can't remember. There's definitely been some very extravagant things, but I think nothing comes to mind.
Maybe like a personal
I'll have to have a think.
of the costumes you've worn.
I did on Halloween night, which they sort of coincided with a Bob as well. I went as like a robot, but I basically, because I just moved in, because it wasn't that long after, because we sort of moved in October. So I brought all these boxes with me, these cardboard boxes, and they were these huge boxes, and I basically put them around myself and turned myself into a robot, and put tinfoil around the whole thing, and that was good fun. And I somehow managed to go into Cindy's, which is like the local nightclub, with this massive box, and they didn't say anything. But yeah, no, that was probably the best costume, I think.
No. And that's a bold, like, freshers move as well, to go in the massive moving box robot.
Yeah, I don't know what I was thinking.
I think the best one I've ever seen was 4 people in one very long cardboard box came as the yellow submarine.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, we did a beautiful
Amazing. That's good. That's very good.
Nice. So we're drawing to the end now, and you have now left college. You have moved out into the wider world. What do you miss about being there?
Everything but the work, really. I mean, the work I actually did enjoy a little bit. No, I definitely enjoyed the work. It was nice being, I mean, this is sort of a comparison of sort of undergrad to research now. But basically, it's nice being able to study for things that you know, having like the pressure of deadlines is actually, it seems quite overwhelming, but it's actually a great motivator. Because at the moment, as a PhD student, it's like the biggest deadline I have is my Viva, which is in about 2.5 years. So it's like, it's nice to have that motivator. So I definitely took that for granted a little bit. But I think I mostly just miss the atmosphere, the people, all my friends being together in a very close space. And yeah, just all the college staff, the porters, I miss them. And yeah, different tutors and supervisors that I've had. I just generally the area, because it's a lovely place to live. And yeah, going punting was good fun, and I miss that. But yeah, there's plenty of opportunities to go back as well, and because the college is very welcoming. So once you're a member at a college, they will welcome you back, and there's lots of reunion dinners and things like that.
Oh, lovely. Does CATS have its own boats and boathouse that you can punt from?
Yeah. So they have their own boathouse for rowing, but not their own sort of boathouse for punting. So they don't have their own punts. So only the colleges that are on the river are able to take out their own punts. But there's actually not a lot of people know this. There's actually a university society. It's called Granta Rats, and it's basically a university society that owns a bunch of punts. Oh, actually, I think they use punts from the local punt companies, basically. And you pay, I think it's like £20 a year, which is not much. It's basically the cost of one punt anyway for like a day. And you get to use it as much as you want. And you just book it out on the uni like webpage. So although we don't have our own punts, it's very easy to get a hold of them, pretty cheap. So
look at that hidden level to punting. Nice.
Exactly. Yeah.
And if you were looking back over your college experience, what was something you'd do differently if you had to do it all again?
I don't think I would. I think I was quite happy with the way it played out. I don't know. I probably could have worked harder in my first year when you get to Cambridge, because everyone's now sort of, you're like a little fish in a big sea, and like there's lots of other people that are very, very good, and so you end up having to work actually harder if that's what you want. If you want to be like one of the best, and you don't have to be, like, obviously it's totally okay being like a 2-1 is like perfectly good grade to get. but it can kind of shock people a lot, especially after first year. So I think I probably would have made myself work a little bit in first year, a bit more. But then again, I did have a really good time, and yeah, no regrets really.
There you go. Yeah, you can't replace that.